Got it. So welcome everybody to the Myasthenia Gravis Association virtual monthly meetup. We are excited you're here to join us. I'm Sarah Bolton. I'm the host of the virtual monthly meetup. If this is your first time joining us, we meet the fourth Monday of every month from 6:30 to 7:30 Central Time. If you are new to the Myasthenia Gravis Association, we provide support and services to those impacted by myasthenia gravis in their communities. Feel free to check out our website, which is mgakc.org for more information, or email us info@mgakc.org. We've got McKenna Fulton, MGA Community Program Coordinator, working behind the scenes. Thank you so much, McKenna. And just a few announcements. Our April virtual monthly meetup, which is on April 24th. The speaker for that is Angela Pontius, who is going to be sharing the ins and outs of clinical trials with us. You may have heard Angela speak at our annual meeting in 2019 or at a clinical trials webinar in 2021. She is well-versed in the industry and can share the pros, the cons, and all you need to know when considering a trial. And our May virtual monthly meetup is a seronegative patient panel, and that one is on May 22nd. You won't want to miss it. And today we welcome Brenda Colmenares, Associate Director of Communications at the Everylife Foundation. And Brenda also has myasthenia gravis. Brenda is going to share her journey with us. And we ask that you please use the chat feature to ask questions. So drop your questions in the chat. And then Brenda, do you want to take questions at the end or as we go along? What works best for you?
I can take them at the end for sure.
Okay, let's do questions at the end, but feel free to drop the questions as we go along. And then following today's session, you should get a survey, and we super appreciate your feedback. And for now, we'll turn it over to you, Brenda. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your journey.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. Okay. Is that good? Okay.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah. Well, hi, everyone. I'm very, very excited to be here and have the opportunity to share my story with you. So thank you so much for having me. My name is Brenda Colmenares, and I am the Everylife Foundation's Associate Director of Communications, and I have myasthenia gravis. I have to admit that while putting this together, this presentation, and going back to old photos of me, it triggers me a little bit because, I mean, it's something that it impacted my life, of course, but it really helps me appreciate life and my health so much more. So just to tell you, share a little bit about me and my MG journey. I'm originally from Venezuela, and I moved to Miami about 7 years ago. And during this time, I was going through a lot of life changes. I started living in a different country. I was away from my family. I was living on my own and needing to make a living. So things weren't easy at the time. So of course, you know, when things aren't going as planned, of course, one more is going to get added to the bunch. And that's actually when I started noticing a very, very subtle double vision. And it only happened when I was very, very tired or later in the day. So I didn't give it much thought other than I needed to rest or perhaps I needed glasses. But when it got really bad, I found that an eye patch helped. It wasn't the greatest look, but at least I could see. So once this happened, I decided to go to an ophthalmologist who prescribed these really thick prism glasses that basically did nothing. I just felt like I had 3D glasses on all day. And he said, don't worry about it. Your vision will get better on its own. So I didn't give it much thought, but my dull vision wasn't going away. So since I was determined this was a vision problem, I went to another ophthalmologist who said, look, this is a neurological issue, not a vision problem. So that's when I got a little bit worried. But when it really, really hit me was one time after work, I got home late and felt very, very tired. So I sat down to eat dinner and I could barely hold my neck up. I had trouble swallowing as well. Like if I didn't have liquids with my food, I would basically choke. So, okay, that's when I knew this is not okay. So I did a little bit of research and made an appointment with a neurologist, but their soonest availability was in 6 months. So obviously that was way too long for me. Imagine feeling like this for 6 months. I wasn't going to wait that long. So after a couple of days of having double vision, having trouble swallowing, and trouble breathing at night, I decided to go to the emergency room. And once I was there, they did a lot of tests, including an MRI. And finally, the doctor came into my room and in like a very cold and casual way, he said, you have a condition called myasthenia gravis. And my immediate reaction was I started crying because, okay, this is it. I'm going to die. I had never heard of this disease in my life. I thought this is a mistake. I've always been healthy. No one in my family has this. So I was very confused. And also thinking about it now, on one hand, I feel very fortunate to have received a diagnosis that quick because I know it's not the case for everyone. But on the other hand, I kind of hope that the doctor was a little bit more, I don't know if comforting was the word, but at least if he told me that with treatment, I could live a normal life, that could have made things a little bit better and less scarier. So instead, I was handed all these papers that talked about MG and was prescribed with 40 milligrams of prednisone to start, and I got discharged. So honestly, now that I look back, I was very trustful of doctors. And I mean, why wouldn't you, right? Whatever they said, I would 100% do or believe. And that included taking prednisone, which I never at that time imagined the harm it would do to me. And if someone here takes it, you might understand what that means. So with prednisone, after 2 weeks, my double vision was gone. Everything was perfect. My weakness was gone. I felt energized. I felt happy. I finally felt like myself again. And this went on for a couple of months. So I thought, this isn't so bad, you know, I'll just take prednisone forever. It's not that bad. But after like a year and something, I started noticing changes in me and my body. So yes, I had no MG symptoms anymore, but I was losing my hair. I gained a lot of weight. I was moody. I was depressed. I basically didn't recognize myself anymore. And it was also hurting those around me because feeling like this, you don't want to socialize. You don't want to go anywhere. So I just wanted to basically stay in my room in a dark place all day. So that wasn't fun. So this is when I decided to visit a new doctor. And when she found out I was taking prednisone, she very responsibly asked me to stop immediately because this is very bad. You're too young for this. You shouldn't be taking that. And at the time, I also didn't know this was very, very bad. You cannot stop prednisone cold turkey. You have to like go little by little. So obviously I was happy. I was like, of course, I will never take this again. You're so right. But then it only took a couple of days off of prednisone for me to start feeling very, very sick and had to quickly take it back again. So I was very frustrated. I started thinking, this can't be it. This can't be the only solution. I couldn't believe like I had this condition where the medicine was almost as worse. So like I was saying, for me, having myasthenia was very isolating. My family was there for me, but at the same time, it was hard for them to understand what I was going through. And I think you can be there for those people who have rare diseases, but having it is a different story. And again, like I said, at the time, I knew nothing about rare diseases or its community, so it made the experience more difficult. So I started doing some research, and crazy enough, I found my answers on a Myasthenia Gravis Facebook group. I joined all the groups possible. And then that's where I felt I finally found my community, people that had my same concerns, questions, and fears. So while I was going through all this, I started reading comments where a few patients suggested IVIG, which, by the way, I had never heard from by my doctor. So I was like, I'm all in this IVIG thing, I'm doing it. So I brought this up to my doctor, and he was like, sure, let's try it. By the way, if you don't know, IVIG is used to, it's an infusion, and it's used to treat myasthenia when there is a need for like a fast response or when you are in a crisis. So usually IVIG, you take it while waiting on another medication to take effect, which, by the way, I wasn't taking. I was just taking prednisone, and then they put me on IVIG. So long story short, with IVIG, I got it 1 week every month for 5 hours, and had to have like a port in my arm. And it did help my symptoms, but every time I got closer to the end of the month, I would start crashing because I needed the medicine again. So like I said, it was a temporary solution. And in the meantime, I still was taking prednisone. And also I remember that like my dream at the time was like to be tapering down from prednisone. So every time I did, with my doctor, of course, my double vision came immediately back on if it was gone for a little bit. So that was frustrating. It almost feels like it's your fault. You're doing something wrong. And obviously it's not the case. So then again, I felt frustrated. I just prayed that this horrible disease would go away. And again, I went to my Facebook friends and I started reading in the comments about this medication called Rituxan, which treats certain autoimmune diseases and sometimes some types of cancer. And on this group, people kept saying how this medication works for patients who are MG-MuSK positive. So I didn't even know if I was or wasn't until I asked my doctor about it, and turns out I was. And my point with all this that I'm saying today is that, like, when I think about it, I find it crazy how most of my answers regarding my rare disease I found on a social media platform where no one is a healthcare professional. So I listened to them, and in this case, this person, she doesn't even know she saved my life, but this person called Donna finally, I read this message, and I immediately asked my doctor about Rituxan, and it is basically what put me into remission. And you can see how Donna even mentions, do not take prednisone, but this is something my doctor never brought up. He did because I mentioned it to him. So what I want to say also is that if I didn't advocate for myself and ask questions and not settle for what doctors were telling me, I would probably still be taking prednisone and having all these horrible side effects. And also, I understand that this is not the answer for everyone. I really, really wish it was. But don't be afraid to ask questions and want to know more about your condition and treatments, because it's your body, it's your journey, and no one will care as much as you do. So the advocacy aspect of my journey came together for me once I started working at the Everylife Foundation around 3 years ago, when rare diseases were still pretty new to me. But I had a background in marketing and was a rare disease patient, so the Everylife seemed like the perfect fit for me. So just to tell you a little bit about the Everylife Foundation, it's a nonprofit dedicated to empower the rare disease patient community to advocate for legislation and policy that helps advance the development and access to life-saving diagnosis, treatments, and cures. So as part of my day-to-day in the Everylife, I'm excited to be able to communicate what the Everylife does. Me as a patient speaking to patients, which is great. Part of my job is helping promote our amazing events and programs and asking advocates to take action on policy initiatives. And I get to do all this in creative ways that help engage our audience, which is also me. I'm also the audience. So when I joined the Everylife, my first experience was when my first experience with advocacy was when I attended Rare Disease Week, and this was back in 2020, right before COVID made everything virtual. And Rare Disease Week happens on February of every year, and it's a week where hundreds of rare disease advocates from around the country get together in Washington to share their stories with their members of Congress and with support from the RDLA, which is the Rare Disease Legislative Advocates, and it's a program of the Everylife. Advocates share their specific legislative asks. So personally, just being able to meet people from the rare disease community and specifically from the MG community was indescribable for me. Because for many years I felt very alone and like nobody understood what I was going through. And here I met these strong individuals with amazing stories that reminded me that one, like I said, I wasn't alone, and two, that I could use my story to help others, which is very empowering. So I always remind myself that all of us are unique and we have great days and we have very bad days, but they both make great stories depending on your point of view. So if you are up for the experience, the RDLA hosts an event called Rare Across America, which is coming up this August 7th through the 18th. And here you get to meet virtually and in person with your members of Congress close to your home. And like I said, it is very empowering to feel like you're making your voice heard to change policy for the rare disease community. But if you're someone close to you has been diagnosed with a rare disease and you want to learn more and take action in some way, visit the everylifefoundation.org or feel free to contact me. We have a lot of great programs. We have a scholarship for rare disease students, and you don't have to be a student, you can be 6 years old. So we provide those as well. So if you want to visit the Everylife, you'll find all of that. So thank you so much again, and I'm happy to take any questions or just chat.
Yeah, feel free to drop your questions in the chat for Brenda. Thank you so much, Brenda. Something that I was curious about, I guess it resonated with me when you said that you found your information via Facebook groups.
Yes.
I found that to be kind of true for me as well.
Really? Okay. Yeah, that's crazy. And I feel like people share their experiences through Facebook and they look for that support because you can tell how people are desperate. Like, this is happening to me. Is this normal? Like the most random things that you might think it's only you'll find it on those groups because it's happening to more people than you think. So it was very I felt it was comforting to see that people have your same questions and concerns. And I found even they talk about food, they talk about vitamins, like they take, obviously you're not going to go and do it, whatever they say without like a little bit of investigation or talking to your doctor, but at least it worked for me.
Yeah, it gets you started kind of moving in the right direction, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, when you're feeling like that, you do everything. I tried green juices. Because of the prednisone, I was gaining weight, so I would eat less to see if I like lost the weight, but that's not healthy at all.
All right. Does anyone have any questions? I'm not seeing anything coming through on the chat. Let's see. Any comments?
Mel, raise your hand.
Okay. Mel. Let's see. Are you able to?
I don't know if I can, but I can allow them to speak if there's a question that popped up in the chat, but I think I have the ability to allow them to talk if that's okay.
I can.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
okay.
I think I'm gonna allow Mel. If the hands up was a mistake, okay.
Go ahead, Mel.
Oh, okay. I see one in the chat.
Yeah. After the amount of questionable medical misinformation spread on Facebook during COVID, I'm kind of wary about getting information that way. How do you verify the accuracy of information? Thanks for that question, Travis.
Thank you. Yes, like I said, you see a lot of information. And again, for example, the Rituxan I mentioned, it didn't work for a lot of people. So you can't just go in. Obviously, Rituxan, you have to run it by your doctor and get insurance approval. So it's not something you can just buy at CVS. But obviously, you get to read like these crazy pills that people take and vitamins. So again, I know I said that like I got my answers from Facebook, but I always ran them by my doctor to make sure these were okay. So what I mean is like, do your research, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on Google, whether it's on webinars, whatever, and then just ask your doctor about it.
Yeah, I love that, Brenda. I think we can, if we're seeing common themes, people talking about, like you mentioned IVIG, that was how you found out about IVIG, but then it was something that you could bring to your doctor to talk about as well.
Yes. And I mean, and it might work, it might not work because everyone's different, but if when you're in that situation, you just want to try whatever is best for you.
There's another question from Sherry, I see. As rare as MG is, have you found particular doctors in the Kansas City area who really get it? I'm in Florida. I fly back to Kansas City on Wednesday for months. I'm scared of starting brand new to find a good neurologist.
I'm not in Kansas, but for me, it was helpful I went through a lot of doctors, and I think it's part of the process. You have to find that doctor that gets you, that wants to answer your question. I know it's tough because it's hard to get them to sit down, listen to me, please, I'm desperate, but it helps it helped me get reviews, or maybe find MD groups in Kansas that might have suggestions. I don't know, Sarah, if you have more information in Kansas specifically, but just finding some local support groups, they might have more information on that.
Yeah, I am not sure specifically Kansas City, but I know the MGA is based in Kansas City, so maybe
Allison might know. Yeah.
And you might be able to check out the website mgakc.org and see if there are some resources available there. And McKenna, if you have anything to add to this question.
I can reach out to that person via email after this and kind of help them get in contact with someone or find a support group where they're going.
That's great. Thanks, Sherry. Any other questions? Any other, I guess, I'm curious, Brenda, anything else you want to share about advocacy?
It seemed like for me, it was a bit overwhelming. And my first thought was, that's not for me. I'm not an expert in policy. I don't know anything about that. But what I found great, like I got goosebumps when I this past rare disease week, I got to attend Hill meetings and met with my members of Congress. I was part of like a group, and you get to hear these teenagers and then or adults, and they share their stories, and you don't know how impactful it is when they see the person that's affected by the disease share the story. It's not the same to ask them to do something instead of being there and saying, okay, this medicine helps me, or this medicine saves my life, and we need approval of it, or I need help. We need help with insurance, and they hear you and they see that you're a real person. So it makes a huge difference. Also, these events are great for networking and connecting with people who have your rare disease. Like for me, when I got to attend these events and find people with MG, I was like, what is this? Some other people have the same thing I have. So, I mean, it's really great experience. So I do recommend it.
All right, this is the last call for questions. And we usually wrap up at 7:30. So we still have about 30 minutes if anyone has anything else.
I'll drop my email in the chat as well, just in case.
Thank you so much. Right, and if there is nothing else, our next virtual monthly meetup again is on April 24th. So Angela Pontius will be sharing the ins and outs of clinical trials. So that's our next monthly virtual event. And if there's no more questions, we can end here. McKenna, anything else that you would add?
I have nothing else to add, but to say thank you to Brenda for joining this webinar and sharing your story and all the, I don't have the best words to say, but I don't have the best way to word it, but your experience and what worked for you. And I'm sure it will help a lot of the people that attended this meeting.
Thanks, Brenda.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to my story and having me today.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next time. Take care.